Right, so we'll start our next session, which is all about our OJA use cases. And this afternoon's compere for this one will be Fernando Reis, if you'd like to come and take the stand.
Thank you, Sarah. So I think it's time that we start our afternoon. I'll invite the colleagues still taking their coffee, come to, so we can start. So we have a packed session with 6 speakers and 100 minutes. So I did not use LLM to compute the time, because as Mark told us this morning, it does not work for using it as a calculator. So it's roughly 12 minutes for each speaker. I will give you a sign of victory when there are 2 minutes to go. So let's get right away. Our first speaker today is Emiline Roger, a data scientist currently working at DARES, the French Ministry of Labor, where she focuses on analyzing occupations and employment trends, particularly for workers with disabilities. Emiline has a strong academic background, having earned a Master in Science in Population Health from the University College London, and an engineering degree in physics from École Polytechnique. She also completed specialized training in human and military formation at the École des Officiers de la Gendarmerie Nationale. Her expertise spans data analysis, public health, epidemiology, bioinformatics, and project management, making her particularly well equipped to address complex social and labor market issues with a data-driven approach. Beyond her professional and academic achievements, Emiline has an international outlook, having volunteered as an English teacher in Nepal and worked as an associate at the DRG Consulting in London, where she contributed to healthcare-related analytics. Today, she will share her insights on leveraging online job advertisements for green skills analysis in France. Please join me in welcoming Emiline Roger.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the very nice introduction. So, as said, today I'm going to present this study on how to use, on a study case to use online job advertisements in labor market statistics with a focus on green skills demand. Is this how it's supposed to work? Oh, okay. Great. So since 2019, France has been developing its own online job advertisement database, a bit similar to the WIN project. The idea was to have a short-term data available quickly and representative of today's job markets in opposition to administrative data, which take up to 2 years to be available. Our goal was to use them to calculate hiring intention indicators and also to perform cyclical analysis. At the beginning, we were mostly scrapping private platforms, and we started to include the public sector with national and regional database websites. And we faced some issues with scrapping because it required a lot of maintenance. It was quite vulnerable towards the changes in the website's policies. And so we started developing a new technique, developing partnerships with these websites, with APIs and SFTP flows with some platforms, because we have a national database and not a European one. So we can afford to deal with certain sites on a case-by-case basis because we don't have hundreds to manage. And we realized that this method was a bit more solid and it prevented a lot of work and maintenance. Our idea was also to build a database that's open data, and we also provide a data lab so that people can have the computing power needed to use the data, and everything is accessible to all the students and researchers and everyone working in the public field in France. Over time, two main challenges have emerged to ensure data reliability. And from tomorrow's program and also the interventions today, I think everyone is facing the same issues. So the first one is the rapid growth in job offer volumes, and the second is the ongoing need for database maintenance. So first, there was a significant growth in job offer volumes over time because of duplications of job postings on different platforms. Compared to 2019, we can see that the volume of job offers has been multiplied by 4, and in comparison, job vacancies have been multiplied by 1.5. And although we use deduplication algorithms, we still lack a clear benchmark to measure their effectiveness. So we don't really know to what extent we can detect duplicated offers. And second, maintaining the database is challenging because of website changes, including sites disappearing or becoming temporarily inaccessible, or just blocking our scrapping algorithms, or also just websites being newly integrated, and it results in peaks and drops in the data. So for now, we attempt to smooth them out by extending trends to reduce noise. But a complementary approach that we want to explore in the future is to calibrate OJA's trends on job vacancies, which would be helpful for local analysis, either for a particular town or region, or for a particular job, because in administrative databases, we have access to broad professions, but job offers would give us access to more precise jobs. For example, we can look for solar panel installers in OJAs, whereas in administrative databases, it would be called a roofer or an electrician, but it's still slightly different. So we would get a national calibration by sector based on job vacancies and have access to local and occupational breakdowns using OJAs. So that's the plan for later work. Okay. So for now, we've been using another strength of OJAs, which are the descriptions, because they are really rich. It's a whole text that directly shows the recruiter's expectations. We conducted first illustrative study to show that this database was already accessible and usable. The idea was to encourage students and researchers to do the same and use the database. So we realized that the green transition is changing the job markets, but job level statistics don't really capture what's happening within a profession. And instead of just tracking green jobs, we wanted to focus on green skills to better understand the market changes. And thanks to the job descriptions that are available on OJAs, we can have more details than in broad administrative databases and track the skills. So the study is not exhaustive. We chose to focus on 6 skills and 6 different professions. And the method was a simple keyword-based approach to identify green skills in OJAs. For example, might just switch. Yeah. So for example, so the skills that we chose to focus on were repair and maintenance of electric vehicles for car mechanics, solar panel installation for roofers, thermal insulation for facade builders, heat pumps installation for heating technicians, sustainable building design for architects, and environmental law for lawyers and jurists. And so the method with the keyword search was, for example, for the solar panel installation, we have looked for keywords such as photocell, solar panel, etc., just like all the words representing solar panels. And those skills were chosen with job experts who gave us advice on which skills to pick per job. The idea of doing a keyword search and not complex NLP method and everything, as we were talking about this morning, was to have a method that's reproducible and adaptable, because we want other people to take, understand, and apply this study to other transitions, for example, the digital transformation. So the idea was to have something that's really simple and straightforward. So, results. It showed that there was a clear upward trend in green skills demand since 2019, despite the short 5-year period. The sharpest increase was found for facade workers and roofers. This is probably linked to public policies in France to give grants to individuals that wanted to do energy renovation work in their houses or to install solar panels. For all but for the facade builders, the skills are emerging skills, because we can see that the percentage of job offers mentioning those skills in 2019 was close to 0. For facade workers, there was already a high demand for installation skills in 2019, with about 40% of the job ads that were mentioning that skill. So it suggests more of a shift in priorities rather than an entirely new skill, because facade workers were already being trained to insulate houses, so it's not a new skill. And some professions show slower or more uneven growth. This is likely due to noise or false positives. Another big advantage of OJAs is that we can produce regional analysis and go down to a very detailed level. And therefore, we can answer questions like, if I open a new training course in solar panel installation in that region, will the young people find work here? And so you can see a map of France showing the proportion of job offers, mentioning here it's thermal insulation among postings for facade builders. So there are significant local differences, showing that skills demand is not uniform. It can be explained by several factors, such as climate, because it's colder in the east part of France, but also energy efficiency in the buildings, economic factors with or without funds for renovation, and training availability for professionals. A potential next step would be to develop an interface for public users to conduct their own analysis. Finally, we can wonder whether green skills have an impact on employment condition. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so better. So here we focused on the type of contract that you get and the salary. So we can see that for manual jobs, there is a significant rise in the proportion of permanent contracts that are offered. For managerial roles, it is insignificant. We can guess that permanent contracts are already more widespread. Regarding salaries, it's more or less the same conclusion, although there's a bit more noise. And employment conditions are really interesting because it can be used as a proxy to identify recruitment issues and rare skills with additional certifications needed that are more expensive. For example, for facade workers here, because as we said, insulation skills are already part of the standard training, there's no additional certification needed, therefore there's no wage impact. So it can give a lot of information on the actual tensions in the market and everything. We just need to be cautious with this study because the study is non-causal. We didn't control for any external factors. It's purely descriptive, and one idea would be to access the recruiter's characteristics, to link it with the administrative data to control on companies and see, for example, if green skills demand are associated with healthier companies that can also offer higher salaries and long-term contracts. That's all for me. I hope I was clear. Let me know if you have any questions, knowing that Yanis, who you may have seen in previous sessions of the WIN, is the main author of this publication, so I'll do my best to represent him.
We have some minutes for some questions. Does anyone has any question? There you go. Here. Here.
Okay, thank you for the interesting presentation. I have a question related to the data sources. You said that you are directly contacting the data sources. And also in relation to the deduplication, are you then, of course, when you are scraping, then you don't, well, the data sources, I think they are copying also from other websites and publishing on their own websites. I suppose when you are directly asking, you can say, okay, only give us those which come directly from you. Does this have an impact on the deduplication?
So your question is double, right? How do we do when we directly ask the platforms, and how about the deduplication process?
Does this impact then the
deduplication? So we don't have a direct flow for every website. It depends. Like I know some, especially the private platforms, are not really interested with making a partnership with us, because they are private platforms. So we still try to scrape them and just take their offers. The partnership works mostly with the public websites, like the official one and some regional ones. So when we get their data via a partnership, we just ask for their offers and not the ones that are the inputs from other websites. Because otherwise there's just too much data. So this is one way of avoiding some duplications. But still there are, I think most duplications are just because the companies directly ask all the platforms, directly publish on all the platforms, and not just platforms stealing offers from one another. So I think that's the biggest issue. And for now, we just try to compare offers. So it works pretty well within one website to detect duplications, for example, in different locations and everything, if it's the same main text. But if we try to compare between different websites, because you may have a description of the websites and just different information asked, the main text is quite different, the structure is different, so it's hard to, for now, we don't really manage to detect those ones, which is quite an issue. Still need to resolve that.
Any other question? Doesn't seem so. Bina has a question.
Thank you. So how do you assess the coverage
of the job offers?
Yeah.
We don't. That's also why we want to calibrate on job vacancies, because for now it's hard to know. Like we know that some jobs are widely represented because they tend to post on like many different platforms. So we have like plenty of offers, and some jobs don't really use online advertisement platforms. So it's a bit harder to get to them. So the idea of calibrating on job vacancies would be to have a, how do you say that? To emphasize those, to give more importance, sorry, I lost the word, but to give more importance to those jobs who are less represented and less importance to the ones that are overrepresented. But yeah, it's an issue because we don't know, we have nothing to compare our database with. We don't know the extent of the job vacancies online, so it's hard to know if it's actually accurate or not.
Sorry, but
yeah.
Do you provide regular statistics on these data sources?
No, that's why we don't for now. That was the plan at the beginning. For now, we don't do it because we don't really trust them for that. And that's why for now we focus more on the description, for example. And we don't say that it's extensive. We just compare it on a specific skill, but we don't provide regular indicators with that.
Thank you very much. I think we need to move to the next speaker. Thank you very much, Emiline. Our next speaker is Annalisa Lucarelli. She's a labor market statistics expert at ISTAT, the National Statistical Institute of Italy. She's responsible for the job vacancy statistics, which is a domain that closely intersects with online job advertisements. So makes her work particularly relevant for these sessions discussion. Over the past 4 years, Annalisa has been actively involved in the Web Intelligence Network project, contributing to Work Package 2, which focuses on the methodological developments and statistical integration of OJA data. Her expertise lies in leveraging big data sources to enhance labor market indicators and official statistics. Annalisa's presentation today, Development of a Labor Shortage Indicator by Occupation from OJA Data, will explore how OJA data can be used to identify labor shortages, helping policymakers and businesses better understand workforce demand across different occupations. Please join me in welcoming Annalisa.
Thank you, Fernando, for your kind presentation. This is a joint work with other ISTAT colleagues that works on the ESNet work package 2. In this presentation, we first consider the distinction between the two main concepts, job vacancy official statistics from one side and online job advertisement from the other side, which both regard the demand side of the labor market. We focus on some of the main Eurostat current production of experimental statistics based on OJA data, so the main known quality issues which suffer the OJA data. So we focus the attention on an Italian attempt to construct, but mainly to validate the labor shortage indicator and some of the main quality issues about this indicator, OJA source coverage, representative of OJA distribution by occupation with respect to the labor force indicator, and the comparison with a benchmark official source, then some conclusion. As we know, in the context of official statistics, job vacancy statistics come from quarterly survey that supply quarterly information on the unmet labor demand. Job vacancy can give early warnings about the dynamics of jobs and employment in the future, so they can be considered as a leading indicator of the economic cycle. In particular, the main job vacancy official indicator produced by Eurostat is the job vacancy rate, that is one of the principal European economic indicator, which is produced by NSI on the basis of a European framework regulation. On the other side, we have the online job advertisements that offer an innovative source to complement official statistics. They offer more possibilities for analyzing labor market trends and early capturing new emerging needs, thanks to the granularity of the information they include, the high frequency and timeliness. Thanks to high frequency, timeliness, as well as the fact that OJA represents an immediate channel for search for new candidates by enterprise, OJA-based statistics offer even a more effective leading indicator of the business cycle than job vacancy official statistics. But the OJA-based statistics are at an experimental stage and would need of an harmonized framework of production between different European countries. In this chapter, we can see the enrichment, the potential enrichment that comes from OJA data from web with respect to job vacancy official survey from the European regulation in terms of flow, territorial area, occupation, education, skill, all this kind of information and information at a daily level. But as we know, OJA data suffer of some problems, such as the fact that they overrepresent some occupation and skill and underrepresent some others, the fact that they suffer from selection bias due to the fact that not all job vacancies are advertised online, even if there is a general growing trend in the use of the online channel. Some enterprises carry on using the traditional search channel. Furthermore, we have problem of under and over coverage. Under coverage because Job portals are not necessarily totally covered by web scraping activities. Over coverage due to the presence of ghost vacancy, duplicates, advertisements that are not removed from portal. Furthermore, we have classification error, measurement errors due to the classification process of the machine learning model. At the moment, Eurostat produce experimental OJA-based statistics, experimental because they comes from a new data source and using natural languages processing, but they regards the ICT specialist domain. In particular, these statistics provide information on the impact of the digitalization process. And Eurostat produced the share of OJA for ICT specialists by NATS and occupation, and also the year-on-year change in the ICT domain by NATS region. The other indicator, experimental indicator, is the OJAR, or labor shortage indicator, which lists the most sought occupation, indicating where recruiters, job seekers may face potential difficulties to recruit new candidates. This can help policymakers, employers in knowing where the areas, sector where need more labor force. The OJA rate is the ratio between the OJA and the labor force survey number of employees at the 3-digit level. It complements the job vacancy officially rate with breakdown by occupation, and also fill an information gap of the job vacancy official statistics. We attempt in Italy to construct, but mainly to validate the labor shortage indicator for Italy, attempting to construct a similar indicator to the Eurostat one, but with the difference that we use, instead of the stock of employed person, the flow of employed person at the denominator, so the person who started their current job during the year. And but we mainly focus the attention on the validation process of this indicator, considering the source coverage problem from one side and the representative of OJA distribution by occupation. As regards the source coverage problem, we started from the Eurostat selection model for OJA, from a work that has been written by the ESNet work package for leader. This selection model includes two different blocks for a quantitative and qualitative assessment. In the first block, they consider indicators such as type of portal, volume of OJA displayed. In the second building block, indicators such as the popularity of the website, the stability, and the coverage. These last two indicators require a previous web scraping round. The other aspect we consider is the representative OJA distribution. We starting from a work from the SEDEFOM team presented at Quality of Official Statistics in Vilnius, and we made a comparison between two distribution, the OJA and the labor force distribution, based on an homogeneity test, and we consider the two components of the labor shortage indicator at a breakdown of 3-digit level. As regard the source coverage for Italy, a web scraping ISTAT expert identified the most important job portal currently available in Italy, and we have used indicators similar to those used by Eurostat in its selection model, and indicators which are a proxy because in Italy we do not have a previous web scraping round. As regard the indicators similar to those used by Eurostat, we have a set of indicators that are popularity indicators, such as the total visit, but also mods rank, Alexa rank, or open page rank. These indicators serve as a score indicating a web page is important in comparison to the other one. Moz rank is similar to Google Page rank. Alexa rank is based on the average daily unique visitors. Open Page rank measure the website's relative value to users. As regard the indicator, which are proxy of those used by Eurostat, because we do not have scraping round, we use a proxy of the stability in terms of seniority of the domain that it is from the differences between the registration and expiration days of the domain. And also we use proxy of the coverage of the portal in terms of how it is easy to extract information from the web page, the information of interest, such as occupation, NACE sector, in NATS territorial area, and if this information were present or not. On the basis of this indicator, we made a ranking on the basis of the total visit, popularity, stability, and coverage. And in gray, you can see the main job portal currently available in Italy, but which are not covered by the OJA portal included in the SEDEFOP data lab, such as Indeed, such as Banca Lavoro, and also Talent. The other work is the representative of OJA distribution by occupation using an homogeneity test. We can see the occupation at 3-digit levels where the OJA distribution is equal to is not significant differently from the labor force distribution. In a quite low percentage of cases, we have the two distributions that are very similar. In a higher percentage, we have a distribution of occupation at 3-digit levels, where OJA underrepresent labor force distribution. And in a quite high percentage, we have occupation at the 3-digit levels, where we have a significant differences in this case of overrepresentation, where OJA overrepresent labor force distribution. The last validation step regards the comparison with the benchmark external official source, that is the Excelsior information system carried out by Union Camere. And we compare the stock of OJA at the end of December 2022 with the expected inflow of workers that come from the Excelsior survey in January 2023. We have in terms of total, not so high differences, even if we have some occupation at 1 digit that are overrepresented in terms of OJA, such as manager profession, some other occupation which are underrepresented. But we have some occupation in which the relative differences between the two sources are not so high, such as service and sale worker, craft and related trade works. This is a first step of this kind of work. This is a first step in terms of a benchmark official source. And this is a benchmark source because it regards the demand side of the labor market, not the other side, such as the labor force survey. So we intend to follow this kind of work and also to consider high level of detail and also other period of analysis. Some conclusion: as we know, we can use OJA data in terms of indicator for the skills mismatch, also to cover and solve job matching problems, to meet new requirement from European regulation for unsatisfied emerging needs. The new European regulation labor market business statistics allows the use of innovative sources such as OJA data. And in the case of Italy, we are going to exploit the experience gained in the use of OJA in the private sector to fill the information, a big information gap that regards the public sector for job vacancy official statistics. We intend to use web scraping on a job portal which collects advertisement in the public sector. We have some open issues to be analyzed in depth, such as extended job portal coverage for Italy, having a precision measure and a metadata information which will accompany the production of an indicator, assess the quality of the results using multi-factor analysis, and improve and extend the comparison with official benchmark sources, also in terms of level. We have another source that we intend to explore, that are the compulsory communication system from the Ministry of Labour. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annalisa. We have a couple of minutes for questions. Any questions for Annalisa?
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. I'm Sonia from Portugal. It is really great that you made this effort for validation in several fronts. I was wondering, because you said several times that you don't have the previous web scraping round, was this a decision or it wasn't just available? You couldn't do that, so you went on without it?
We had the past experience as an innovative attempt, but we do not repeat it. We have this experience in March 2018. And at the moment, it's difficult due to costs and for NSIs also to have completely addressed the team to this kind of activity. So probably the trade-off is use the SEDEFOP data lab that already collect information, trying to improve the some quality issues such as coverage with respect to starting a new web scraping activity in the institute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Sure.
In your last slide on the conclusions, you mentioned the new legislation on the labor market. Have you already thought more deeply on possibilities of satisfying information needs through this approach?
We need to satisfy the new incoming European regulation that will be running from the first quarter 2026. First of all, for covering the public sector using web scraping from a portal which in Italy collects all kind of offer from all kind of institutions. So Italy is one together. France, which does not still cover the public sector from the official side of job vacancy statistics. We need to cover with a source, an innovative source, due to the kind of operating the advertisement in the public sector in Italy. It should be too cost and burden for NSIs to collect information with the survey in the public sector in Italy. So we need to use different kind of approach based on innovative source. Also because we cannot use an indirect approach of estimating job vacancy in the public sector using the estimation in the private sector, because are completely different wave of recruitment. So we intend to cover the new requirements for Italy that is covering public sector for official statistics with the new regulation using a web scraping approach.
Thank you, Annalisa. I think we need to move to the next speaker. Thank you very much, Annalisa. Our next speaker is Donatas Slevinskas, a specialist in the methodology and data science group of the State Data Agency, Statistics Lithuania. His work focuses on enhancing official statistics through data science techniques, particularly in the integration of big data and traditional survey methodologies. Donatas has an academic background in data analysis and data science, holding a bachelor's degree from Vilnius Gediminas Technical University. And I was told just finished his master in data science at the Vilnius University. His expertise includes statistical modeling, analytical methods, and the application of machine learning to official statistics. At Statistics Lithuania, Donatas has been exploring innovative approaches to combining online job advertisements data with probability sample data to improve labor market statistics. His work aims to enhance small area estimation techniques for job vacancies, bridging a gap between big data sources and high-quality statistical inference. Today, he will present his research on combining online job advertisements with probability sample data, demonstrating how these methodologies can improve labor market insights. Please join me in welcoming Donatas Slevinskas.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Fernando, for the introduction. And can someone show me how to use this pointer?
Press until it works.
Yeah. Press until it works, yeah. This work is done with my colleagues Andres and Eva, and I will briefly introduce the topic, explain how we use the OJA data in estimation, and provide a few empirical results. So as you most likely know, the main product of National Statistical Institutes is the official statistics. And NSIs always have this desire to improve their product, and it can be done by either timeliness or by granularity. Granularity can be achieved if estimates are provided in a more detailed level. And typically, traditional sample designs are optimized for population level estimates. And as a result, unplanned domains suffer from small sample sizes, and estimates themselves are unreliable or have high variability. A possible solution can be to incorporate more data, including non-traditional data sources like mobile networks, social media, or in this case, OJA. The initial setup that we are dealing with, we have a probability sample from statistical survey on earnings in which job vacancies at the end of the quarter are collected. So we have the target variable in probability sample. We have also from administrative sources completely known information about the monthly number of employees, economic activities, locations for the whole population of enterprises. And as for non-probability sample, we created from, as a basis, it is based on OJA data. Initially, we link advertisements with the business register based on their names, and exclude the enterprises that do not belong to the population. And the OJA variable itself is an aggregate of unique advertisements in the last few weeks of the quarter. And this non-probability sample, it only partially covers the study population, and it is not representative of this population because the main thing of the probability samples is not present. The selection mechanism is unknown, and it roughly only can approximate job vacancies by some nonlinear relationship, because the definitions of job vacancy and OJA differ, and also the timeliness does not overlap. So there will be a little bit of formulas, so don't be afraid of them. So if we say that, for example, we have final population U, it can be partitioned into domains where the goal is to estimate in each domain job vacancy total. And the estimator, its inaccuracy can be measured by coefficient of variation. And if we assume that we have known domain sizes, we use as direct estimator Hayek type estimator with initial design weights, D being inversely proportional to first order inclusion probabilities. And as a usual starting point in all small area estimation, the variances of this estimator might be too large for small sample sizes. So we have a possibility to use a non-probability sample, but we have to use it in a statistically correct way. In one of the cases, for example, if we have in probability sample, we have auxiliary covariates and design weights, and in a non-probability sample, we have the target variable. We can create a imputation model to predict target variable for the whole probability sample. In the same setup, from probability sample, we can model this selection mechanism and estimate propensity scores to obtain, to adjust for selection bias and obtain inverse probability weighted estimators. In another setup where we have a overlap between those two samples, Kim and Tam proposed a regression data integration estimator, which is based on calibration estimators, where the goal is to find a new set of weights which would minimize the distance to the initial weights and would satisfy certain calibration constraints. Now, in the case of OJ, we treat this non-probability sample as having only auxiliary covariates and use those auxiliary covariates to build a prediction model and predict the target variable for the whole non-probability sample and modify one of the constraints. This approach was inspired by Wu and Sitter of their article about model calibration. And this estimator's variance can be estimated by replication methods like Bootstrap. So yeah, we treat this model calibration estimator as direct estimator and use in further small area modeling, we use Fay-Hiret model, which is a type of linear mixed models, and it produces empirical best linear unbiased predictions for domain totals, which can be expressed as a linear combination of direct estimator and synthetic part or prediction part. And for the data like job vacancies, because it is asymmetric and in order to meet distributional assumptions, we apply log transformation for these estimators. Now moving on to the results. Initially, we tested our proposed estimator for a single quarter. In the top left plot, these are the scatter plot of estimates. Because both Hayek and eBlobs should be unbiased, they should produce similar estimates in the domains, and this hypothesis also can be tested. This hypothesis also can be tested with the wall type test statistic. And in this case, the estimates do not differ significantly. In the top right plot, the distribution of domain coefficient of variations for the two estimates, estimators show that our proposed estimate can handle extreme cases quite well. And if we define certain accuracy thresholds to group the estimates into three categories, good, sufficient, or unreliable, from the two bottom plots, we can see that eBlobs produce all estimates either good or sufficient, so they can be published, while using direct estimation in the domains results in a few cases of unpublishable results. We also looked at the performance for multiple periods, and as before, the extreme cases of high inaccuracy are handled quite well for using this eBLUP with model calibration estimator. And if you once again group the estimates based on their quality groups, in all of the analyzed quarters, eBLUPs did not produce unreliable estimates, while direct estimator on average produces about 15% of unpublishable domains. The tools that we used for for initial pre-processing and the record linkage, we used Python, PySpark, and for building model and obtaining estimates, we used R packages, StatMatch, Survey, and especially MD package for small area estimation. So yeah, that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donatas. Are there any questions from the room? Alex, there's a microphone coming. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting presentation. Maybe I saw it wrongly, but on the slide with the results, why do the good ones go down so drastically in the small area case? So the share of the estimates with the highest quality decreased, right?
Which one?
No, the slide with the bar chart.
The bar chart, okay. One possibility could be that because we used the prediction model and we estimated variance with Bootstrap, the larger domains that have more sample sizes, the direct estimator might be good enough. And using model calibration with variance estimator as Bootstrap, there's a lot of more variability in those larger domains. So these domains have higher variances using this method.
Okay, I'm just a bit surprised. I thought it would just give all the weight to the direct estimator in these areas, but yeah, maybe it's a detail. I'm also not a small area expert.
Any other questions? There's someone in the back.
It's really nice work. I was wondering, have you've not tried to calibrate them so you can deal with this Kim-in-Tam paper, you can deal with selection error. Yet they also have the option to account for measurement error, and that's really unique because it's one of the few publications that's able to do both. Did you give it a try to also try to correct for those errors?
The relationship between the OJ and the job vacancy is non-linear. So we don't know exact measurement error model for which could be of potential use. So we have not tried using measurement model.
You might look into it if you find it interesting.
Any more questions? Maybe I have one question. Is there a paper?
No.
No paper yet?
No paper yet.
Yet.
Yes.
Okay. We need a paper.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no more questions, let's just thank you very much, Fernando. Our next speaker is Vladimir Kvetan, a senior expert on skills analysis and forecasts at ZFOP, where he has played a pivotal role in shaping the production and the use of online job advertisements data for labor market analytics. Vlad was a driving force behind the creation of ZFOP's OJA data production system, which today operates at the Web Intelligence Hub. His leadership in this field has significantly advanced the use of big data for skills intelligence, helping policymakers, researchers, and stakeholders gain deeper insights into the labor market dynamics and emerging skills needs. With a strong background in economic research and policy analysis, Vlad previously worked at the Institute of Economic Research of the Slovak Academy of Sciences and served as a delegate at European Economic and Social Committee's Consultative Commission on Industrial Change. He holds a degree in economics from the Ekonomika Univerzita Bratislava and has contributed to numerous projects on EU cohesion policy and labor market transformation. On a personal note, I've had the privilege of working very closely with Vlad over the past 4 years, particularly in the development of the Web Intelligence Hub and its OJA data infrastructure. His expertise, strategic vision, and dedication have been instrumental in turning this initiative into reality. Today, Vlad will present on using online job advertisements for skills analytics, showcasing the new innovative methodologies and applications of OJA data for labor market insights. Please join me in welcoming Vladimir Kvetan.
I'm flattered, Fernando, and the personal note is also from my side. It was really a pleasure it is always a pleasure to work with you, and we really spent a long journey together, and also with WIN, because I remember when there were like first workshops of WIN, and we were trying to find a way if we can do something with the web data and how to organize the scraping. And now I'm very, very happy that at the end of this big project of yours, I see new challenges. So, but I will talk about it at the end, and I will also contribute to this challenges part, because technically this year is it's 10 years exactly when CEDEFOP started to work on online job advertisements, and we were trying to see how we can use this information to inform education and training policy and basically run the labor market analysis. And this is one addition to Marco's presentation. I think when you were presenting the charts with the literature and the patents and stuff, there should be another line which is like policy making and statistics. But maybe it was there, but it was somewhere.
We have to suggest that not all the data live in the same vocabulary.
This is what I want. This is what I was about to say. That it takes time. It takes time until these things are accepted by people that have hands on the money and public policies. So what and this exercise is also something similar, because as said, we started to work on this topic like 10 years ago, and when starting developing, started to basically promoting the work, there was clear message: why do we need to do a web scraping? There is a pan-European platform called EURES. Why don't you take just EURES data and make analysis on the EURES data? We said, fair enough. If you grant us access to the EURES data, we can see. And it was just last year, so 9 years, it took us to get hands on the EURES data as a European institution. So again, just long story short, we started to look at and basically ingest data in April. And what I will be presenting today is comparison between the data that we have scraped from all over the Europe with the EURES data between April and June. Of course, we will repeat the exercise in coming months, years, and see how to go about that. So technically, we looked only at about 6.7 million unique job postings. And we compared the data with what we had in our system, and also to the hard codes, because EURES also takes into consideration hard-coded occupation title. And here I need also to pass credits to, first of all, to Eurostat and Web Intelligence Hub for ability to organize it from the technical part, and also to our great research team, great research contracting team that did all the hard job. So I can be now I can play clever. So thank you. So what we had, of course, as said, the EURES data came only somewhere in April. So we looked at, first of all, the primary objective was to look at distribution. If we can get from pan-European data source, a similar type of data as we have already from the other platforms. So we can see that we get lower, however, equally distributed data. So basically, if we look at where is here, this is the first month, first weeks of ingestion, and it's clear that we have about, in average, like 100,000 job ads. And also what we can see is that although the source is considered to be harmonized and there is lots of resources spent on maintaining the source, in 2024 we had still some data even from 2018. So the cleaning of the registry is apparently not something that the source was very good at. But also when we look at the country distribution, we can see some sort of similarities. That basically you have the biggest amount is from France, Germany, and Belgium. From the web intelligence, from our Web Intelligence Hub DPS, we have also UK data, but UK is not a EURES country, so because of the Brexit, EURES doesn't present the countries there. So we can see that the basically country distribution is relatively okay. So we were happy. Then we look at the distribution of the occupation classifiers, because we took the distribution of occupations, we classified the occupations of the job advertisements, and then we realized that these are the raw, let's say, from the these are the EURES postings, and these are the how it went through our classification algorithms. And again, we see that the distributions is more or less equal. There are some changes. There are some differences, mainly driven by the fact that EURES concentrates the public employment service platforms, and some occupations which are predominantly hired through the public employment service might have a bit of higher posting rate. So we looked at it and we said, okay, we are very happy. More or less, we are in agreement, and we would end story here. However, a challenge was that EURES data contains also hard-coded occupation titles. This means that each job advertisement comes with already predefined code. So, of course, what we did, we looked at the classified occupation. We looked at what came from the database, and as you know, the occupations are coded in a International Standard Classification of Occupation (ISCO). So we looked at which has 3 levels, and we simply made a comparison at which level we have agreement between the classified and hard-coded data. And if you can see, and as you can see, only about 57% of job advertisements were properly classified by the at one-digit ISCO level by the algorithm and the hard-coded. And then we started to look at like what was the reason behind. Are we really making nuclear scientists out of plumbers? That if the job vacancy is for a plumber, is it really classified as a nuclear scientist? And it's not the case, because we have identified, looking at occupation classification, very narrowly defined occupations where the machine can be misled. And now, as we are sitting here already some hours, I have an interactive exercise for you. So, there are two occupations. On the first column, there is description of the occupation. So the first one is testing of computer hardware, such as circuit boards, computer chips, etc. The second is install, examine, test, and repair computer hardware. You have ESCO alternative labels. So my question is, who thinks that these occupations is the same occupations or they are different? So who thinks that it's the same?
Which digit?
We'll get there. So I'm talking, these are the alternative titles, then there is a ESCO occupation title. So are they same or different? Let's agree they are different, eh? So one is computer hardware test technician, and the other one is computer hardware repair technicians. So the question is, Alex, at which digit is the difference? You have 4 digits. So at which? The first one is 31, and 7 is 70, and the second is 74. So more or less they look like the same. Even the job title is very similar, but the difference is just for those who might not know, the number 3 is associate professionals, like pretty high level. Number 7s are craftsmen. So the number 7s are actually plumbers. The second example. One, monitor delivery of technical support services to clients. Another one, provide technical assistance. Is it the same or different? Let's agree the job titles are different. So one is the ICT Help Desk Manager, and the second one is ICT Help Desk Agent. Different or same? Same or different? Different? No. Or the 4th digit is the same occupation. So again, and if we look at ICT manager, very top-notch, everyone wants to be ICT manager. If we look at the distribution of different types of ICT managers across the ESCO, we have, these are ISCO 1, which are the top-notch legislators and managers, ISCO 2, which are the professionals, and there are my favorite help desk managers, which are ISCO 3. So, and the difference is just one word. So if an HR manager just puts the job title in, most likely they don't make a difference between ICT product manager and ICT product manager. Of course, when someone comes to the public employment service, the person at the public employment service has a pleasure to discuss with an employer, so can have additional information to classify it properly. So again, here we can see the issue in full extent. The last one. Moving out from the ICT, we go to a just normal occupation, which is accountant or bookkeeper. Eh? While in Slovak, for instance, or Italian, the normal job title is, as we say, contabile, ragioniere, or účtovník. I'm pretty sure that you can find similar words in your languages. Translation English. These guys is accountant and a bookkeeper. Completely different ESCO codes. And there is an ESCO title which is in Slovak, which is účtovník. No one uses that word to describe an occupation in the job advertisement, because it's really very everyone uses this one, and it can lead in this error. So again, only people that are able to get additional information can get things right. So again, where to get from here? So in my view, this is something for the next win. And I went, so we need to compare comparable. So if we take something which is human labeled and machine labeled, we might have differences there. So telling that one thing is right and one thing is right and one approach is wrong, I don't think that it's a right question. But I think what we need to do is maybe rethink the classification groupings, and in the case of job advertisements, maybe is it really so important to get different types of ICT managers to have scattered around different groups of ISCO? I don't know. What we can, and I'm going back to. I'm just trying to steal the question from you. we can move forward and use some more, put some more money in, and see how the LLMs can help us and see the really differences, because I forgot to say that the difference by definition between accountant and the bookkeeper is that accountant is responsible for filing taxes. So the accountant signs the tax declaration, bookkeeper only prepares the thing. But in many companies it's the same. So again, we can see, and of course closer work with portals and really to understand employers, how employers are using the words, how employers are using the vocabularies, how close employers are with all the classification. So that's all from my side. Before I leave the space for the questions, I would like to make some advertisements and heat up, as we call it, heat up my own soup. We are organizing an event similar event on the 1st of April. Deadline for submission of papers is 10th of February, but you can still stop me over the coffee, and we can discuss if you need extended deadline. So thank you very much, and again, the Web Intelligence Network 2.0 is done. Let's live Web Intelligence Network 3.
Thank you. Questions? Mark.
I totally agree that I think this ISCO is kind of broken. Just experience to share what we were doing for OECD, really for IT jobs only, not for everything, right? So we got job advertisements from Madzuna. Okay, so we were something like 100,000 per week, roughly. So we were paying. Okay, fine. Now each job was described by the number of skills, and these skills are changing fast, as we know, not just in AI but also in IT in general, right? So basically, we redid taxonomy of IT jobs, right? And this is what we were tracking at the end, right? So, and this kind of was reflecting reality on the market. But so each job was described by a set of skills standardized across languages. So So we mapped all the skills into Wikipedia vocabulary, and then on the top of this, across languages, right? And then we did the taxonomy. And this was pretty stable and still is stable. So this is how we did at OECD because what you showed, it's broken.
So it's good to know that basically the approach to rethink the packaging is the one of the ways forwards, and we can see.
I'm not sure how politically correct is to redefine this, right? But
okay. Thank you. Any other more questions, Alex, here on the front?
I also agree to the ISCO bashing. So it's terrible for the task we want to do. Maybe I can give us a better structure than the current ISCO structure. We will have a presentation on the quality of the OJA data for the ISCO, and the main problem why it's that bad is that the classification is that bad. So that you are most of the times you're wrong at the first digit, and then you're just in the wrong bucket, and then you cannot help it. But I also disagree with one thing that you cannot compare the machine result to the human result, because we want the machine to give us the result we think is right. If it's correct in a philosophical way, I personally don't care. If the expert says that's the right one, then that's the one I want the machine to give me. And that's kind of the measure we have to live with.
Yes, I would agree with you on one condition. Thank you. Under one condition, that the additional information which is given to a human validator is then reflected in the text, because this is the most important thing. Because it's the same if you look at as was the example of the help desk technician and computer repairer. Technically, if you look at the skill sets and an actual job, is not very different. And if as I said, the jobs are if jobs are described by the set of skills and some narrative, that basically you need to be there. You need to be able to install some software. You need to be able to fix some hardware. It's very easy to be misled. The only difference is that that as this is done at the level of public employment service, the person that is validating knows the employer. And they know that, okay, this company is not a help desk company, is the hardware, small hardware repair shop, so I know how to classify it. So yes, again, I agree with you, but then I want to have this information somewhere reflected. And if it's not, then okay, the machine can be only as clever as the information provided to the machine, unless again we develop things further. But this is. We have a food for thought for the next one.
No, I agree to that. Humans sometimes also have an unfair advantage. Like they know the context better than machines do if you don't give the machine the information. That's true. Yeah.
No. Okay, we have 20 minutes for the next two speakers, so I suggest. Thank you, Vlad. Thank you very much. Our next speakers, we will have Mikołaj Tym, who will be together with Jakub, that is here in front of us. I will present Mikołaj. Jakub will speak tomorrow, so I think someone will give a little bit more detail about his background. But concerning Mikołaj, he's a data scientist at the I2G Institute for Business Informatics and a graduate student of informatics and econometrics at Poznan University of Economics and Businesses. Mikołaj's expertise lies in natural language processing, data processing, and AI deployment, with a particular focus on applying large language models to real-world problems. His bachelor thesis explored state-of-the-art transformer-based models, including BERT, Roberta, MD Berta AV3, laying the foundation for his research in job advertisements classification. In addition to his academic work, Mikołaj Mikołaj has practical experience in teaching Python programming and data visualization, and he has successfully competed in international challenges, in particular the European Statistical Awards, Web Intelligence Challenges. Notably, his team won the 3rd place in both accuracy and reproducible categories of Eurostat's competition. Today, he will present his research on online job advertisements classification using encoder-like large language models. So I am sure that we all look forward to listen to him. So please join me in welcoming Mikołaj Tym. And Jakub.
Thank you for introduction. So hello everyone. My name is Mikołaj Tym, and together with my coworker Jakub, we are here to tell you about our approach, which using large language model, encoder-like large language model, classifies the online job advertisements, because maybe, as you can know, there are not only decoder-like large language models which generating text, but also this encoder-like, which only encode the text, and then we can classify, for example, job advertisements with human interpretable probabilities instead of generating text using bigger large language models. These encoder-like large language models are often very indeed small in compared to this decoder-like. Okay, so as we know, online job advertisements are indeed abundant source of data. However, in case of analyzing these advertisements, in purpose of analyzing the on-demand occupation or the labor market changes, we must somehow classify these advertisements, and it was our goal during this research. This research was a part of the Web Intelligence Challenge organized by the European Statistics Awards. Each team can submit 10 submissions with classification of job advertisements along with R or Python scripts. Predicted classes were evaluated by an LCA metric, which was used to compare competitors on the leaderboard. The online job advertisements must be classified into the International Standard Classification of Occupations, which my previous speaker mentioned also. And we have also encountered the same problem, which was discussed 10 minutes ago. So this 4-digit version of the ISCO codes contains 436 occupation classes. And this 4-level approach is used to determine the occupation type. Here we can see some example of the ISCO code. So the first digit is the most general one. So in this example, technicals and associate professionals. And the last one is the medical and dental prosthetic technicals, the most specific label for this occupation type. Despite some of the classes are strongly semantically related, they occur in completely different ISCO tree branches, which was mentioned some minutes ago. Here we can see another example related to accountants, which should be classified as professionals. So the first digit is 2, and the accounting and bookkeeping clerks, which should be classified as clerical support workers. So the first digit should be 4. The additional problem is that the LCA metric, which was used to evaluate our approach, heavily penalize such mistakes. So it was a big challenge to handle this problem. The dataset, which was included during the challenge, contain 26,000 multilingual job advertisements collected from 400 websites across the European Union. These advertisements contained noisy and irrelevant data such as HTML tags, GDPR clause, job benefits, or company policies. Therefore, we must somehow filter such relevant text from noisy text in an advert.
Duty classifier was our data preprocessing step to clean job advertisement. Why we needed that? Because here we can see the single job offer that contains many sections like employer overview, where the employer is describing what the company is doing. Next, we have requirements and benefits. And at the end, there could be equal opportunity statements or GDPR clauses. And not all of the sections are important in case of the classification. Especially the employer overview can be misleading for the model because the car company which is manufacturing cars can looking for accountant, and the model might think that the offer is for the mechanic, not the accountant. That's why we needed to filter that information along with the equal employment opportunity statements out of the offer. To do that, we've trained model encoder-like BERT to classify each sentence from the job offer. But first, to do that and use that model, we needed to split the job offer into sentences, which could be hard in some of the examples because the job offer didn't contain the dots, so we can easily split the sentences, the job offer into sentences. So our solution for that was that we prepared a handcrafted high-quality collection of words that comes mostly from the requirements section and start with capital letters that allow us to split the job advertisement into sentences and then apply that model which will classify whether the sentence contains important information about the requirements or not. Not the best split points are SQL or Python, which also met the condition that they start with the capital letter, but they could be also placed inside the sentence. Here is the example how the filtering works. At the top section of the visualization, we have all the sentences that came from the requirements section that were classified with high probability as relevant in case of classification. Another section was a verification step, not to remove too much information. We assume that some percentage of the sentences should be always available for the final classifier. So we just took the next sentences with the higher probability and add to the final offer. We can also see how precisely we were able to filter out the employer overview and equal opportunity statements that were not relevant for the classification. But this was just the data cleaning step, and the main goal of our research was to assign each job offer with the ISCO label. To do that, we train another model, and to train it, we needed examples that would show the connection between the ISCO codes and the requirements of the job offer. We didn't use the competition dataset because it doesn't contain the relevant labels and contains ambiguous information like, for example, the employer overview. So we use the European skills, occupancies, competitions, qualifications, and occupation dataset and form the training examples out of that data. It contains the connection between the ISCO label, job titles, skills, and ISCO group description. And we use that to create the synthetic training examples, so we are able to train that model.
Okay, so to tackle the ISCO classification problem, we fine-tuned a large language model. And here we can see the example of the classification. Model returns the human interpretable probabilities related to the ISCO codes and of course associated with the ISCO labels. This Python developer job advert was classified as software engineer, a software developer, so of course it is a correct classification. Another example is the sales representative advert, which was also correctly classified, but here we can see the problem of semantically related labels that may fill the advert's requirements. So the first two rows are strongly semantically related, and it is a problem for model, but as we can see, model correctly classified these ISCO codes as more probably than others. Last example is a little bit harder because of we intentionally replaced the hotel receptionist, so the job title, and we replaced it with the word an employee. So model must classify this advert without the job title based only of job duties. And as we can see, model correctly classified this advert as hotel receptionist. To sum up, our approach based on fine-tuning lightweight large language model, and instead of using biased real-world data, our model was trained on a synthetic clean dataset. Best competition result was an LCA score of 0.58, which matched the performance of non-expert human annotators, which we developed. Our lightweight model, thus efficient model, achieved 0.52 LCA score and top 5 accuracy of 0.8 on different dataset. This approach allows us to enhance the labor market statistics, making it possible to aggregate data on in-demand occupation or emerging job trends. Thank you for attention. Feel free to ask any questions or contact us via LinkedIn for more technical details.
Mikołaj, Jakub, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Marco and Adam.
Let's say, imagine that you would have no limits on some modern LLM. What would you do for the same task without any limits on budget with today's technology?
The same model, because the bigger models isn't better choice for representing the language. Maybe a little bit bigger but multilingual one, because we used only the English model, so it was a problem. We also developed some related approach that used the Llama and the RAG approach. So the ISCO codes definition was passed to the model, and then Llama must classify the advert, and this approach was slightly worse than this lightweight large language model.
Which model?
Llama.
How many parameters?
8 billion.
400 billion?
8 billion.
8 the smallest.
Yes.
Let's say without budget, so you would be able to use now 400 billion, no limits. So what would you do without limits?
Maybe we can try fine-tune this model, but is it really the need to fine-tune such big models for such classification task? I don't know. I'm 100% sure that using decoder models, even 600 billion parameters, shouldn't be better for classification tasks without fine-tuning. Even this few-shot learning will be worse than fine-tuning.
Thank you very much. I have two questions, actually. The first one is very short. Which language model did you use at the end that achieved the best results?
What a shame. It was a Chinese model, Stella. But it was better.
Okay. And the other is whether...
I'm sorry.
And the other is whether you have considered... so you use the ESCO for training purposes, right? Have you considered just generating artificial data, asking ChatGPT, Gemini, or whatever to create online job vacancies with a specified ESCO description?
It is also indeed interesting approach. We use the ESCO data because of the generated labels and the skills and competences strongly associated with specific ESCO code. So we can be 100% sure that we should classify such job skills as such ESCO code. We don't use this real-world data because of the biases. So, for example, our first try was to train the large language model on the real-world data, and then in the Italy, there is in the Lombardy some automotive industry. We trained our model on this, and then model remembers that when something is related to Lombardy, it should be automotive industry. So this biases was hard, and that's why we use ESCO data.
Thank you very much. We need to move to our last speaker. Thank you very much. Our last speaker is Adam Tsakalidis. He's a researcher specializing in natural language processing and data-driven labor market analysis. Adam currently works at CEDEFOP, where he explores online job advertisements data produced by the Web Intelligence Hub, leveraging language models to extract insights on employment regions and labor market dynamics. Before joining CEDEFOP, Adam had a strong academic career, having been a research fellow at Queen Mary University of London, the University of Warwick, and a postdoctoral research associate at the Alan Turing Institute. His research has focused on NLP applications in various domains, including social media analytics and labor market intelligence. He holds a PhD in urban science from the University of Warwick and was an enrichment student at the Alan Turing Institute. Adam has contributed to multiple projects at the intersection of AI, labor market research, and policy making, making him well positioned to discuss how language models can be applied to extract geographic employment information from OJAs. His presentation today, using language models for extracting regions from OJAs, will shed light on innovative NLP techniques that enhance labor market intelligence. Please join me in welcoming Adam Tsakalidis.
Thank you very much, Fernando. Is this better now? Right, so getting straight to the task, I reckon everybody's coffee hungry. So the task that I will present today is our method that we have developed for extracting NATS two regions of employment in natural language, as expressed in natural language, from online job advertisements. While OJAs, well, because as opposed to traditional statistics, they have their cons, but they also have this capability of being able to offer real-time insights in large volumes of the labor market. And we want to focus particularly on regions, but you can think of any other task really, or many other tasks instead of region classification from OJAs. Here we want to classify regions just to get more granular data and more granular insights on the labor market. And of course, we're using the Web Intelligence Hub database that CEDEFOP and Eurostat have been developing over the past 10 years, but we have been working with data since 2018 in this work. And just to clarify that all the analysis that I will be presenting will focus on the Greek language. I will not present in one slide, I have some Greek language. And then the regions refer to NUTS2 region without loss of generalization. So when I was presented with this task, the very first thing I thought of doing was, why don't I ask ChatGPT straight away? As Jacek mentioned earlier, we cannot really provide OJAs to ChatGPT because there are business names, there could be some emails, etc. And it's very high, it's highly costly. It's not about ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or put whatever, DeepSeek, whatever you want there. So I went to my plan B, which was, why don't I just prompt an in-house LLM, Llama, the smallest model, for example. This again is associated with high cost, operating on GPUs, and the scalability issue. So you cannot really scale to hundreds of millions of online job vacancies at the moment. So I went back to plan C. I think, Marco, you asked whether traditional AI is still relevant. That was my plan C. Just annotate a data set, have a training set, train a model there, apply it on the test set. However, this involves this manual annotation, which is quite annoyingly very time-consuming and labor-intensive. So I wanted to avoid that. So overall, we want a privacy-preserving approach that is low-cost and scalable. And from these three approaches, the only one that seemed to be kind of potentially doing the trick is this plan C. So the challenge here is how we can manually annotate a dataset in order to then train a model for region classification. So for this task, this is the overview of my approach. So if you want to keep one slide of the approach, this is the one, which is divided into 3 steps. The first one is, here we have some fake OJAs that I created, which might contain the names of some regions, which could be the name of a street, it could be the name of a city, of a region, or whatever, geographical area. So the first step, the first goal of step 1 is to extract these locations. Then these locations get fed to commercial or open source LLM. In our case, we use ChatGPT, and we ask them, what is the NUTS2 region of the following phrase that we have identified from the first step? Now, this is provided completely out of context. We are talking about unigrams and bigrams, so single words or 2 words together. So we just extract this information without including any context, and we just ask. So if indeed in step 1 we have managed to identify locations, we would expect that step 2 should provide an accurate result. And the step 3 is simply, taking the extraction, taking the labels that were assigned from the large language models back to the original OJA, and we have a labeled dataset. So the first tricky part was the location candidates, and the first thing we thought of doing was to rely on an existing taxonomy, like a keyword-based approach, like Emiline had presented before. However, in this context, for the region classification in specific, will create a lot of false positives. The presence of a name, several names can be used in different contexts, and the presence of a location name does not necessarily translate into the region of employment. It could be the headquarters of a company, for example. So therefore, we went to plan B, which was to use a name entity recognition, which comes in both unsupervised and supervised fashion. There are language models that are trained to do exactly that, but this is again language, and what I have not included in this slide is context dependent as well, domain dependent. So a model that has been trained on Wikipedia, you wouldn't expect to work that well on social media, for example. So the third approach that we ended up with is an embedding-based approach. So basically, an expert sits down and manually creates a list of some keywords for which he or she is pretty certain that whenever they appear in an OJA, they refer to a location. For example, to put in the Greek context, we have a keyword Aegean could refer to the Aegean Sea, or the North Aegean, or the South Aegean, which are regions in Greece. So all of these are valid. However, it might also refer to Aegean Airlines, which is a company, and therefore I would not include that. I would instead include a keyword such as Syntagma Square, which is a main square of Athens. Then we can extract using a contextual language model such as BERT, we can extract the representation of these anchor words based on a sample of online job vacancies. And finally, we go to these online vacancies and we extract the embeddings, the semantic representation of every other word. And those that are very similar to the representations of our anchor, these will keep them as candidates. And these are the ones that will be fed to the LLM on step 2. So therefore, we end up with candidates in this way. And we go to the second step, which is kind of trying to replace experts with LLMs. So instead of asking an actual human being, what is the NUTS2 code of this phrase, if any at all, we go and ask ChatGPT. This is the exact ugly slide prompt that was provided to ChatGPT. And we asked it to provide the NUTS2 code, and because we saw some inconsistencies, we also asked them for the name. So we had to correct. In some cases, it would display a different NUTS2 code compared to the name. And we also gave it the possibility to output none, because not all of the locations, the candidate locations that we identified in step 1 were actual locations. Could be any part that, for some reason, the language model had detected that it's very similar to a location name. And finally, we go to step 3, where we just take the output from ChatGPT, we put it back to the original OJAs. And here you can see that in OJA, in the first example, this has 4 different labels. And only one is actually the place of employment. Therefore, we needed to do a cleaning step, and we only kept the OJAs that had one NUTS2 region label assigned by ChatGPT. Everything else, we just threw it out, because ChatGPT did not have the context, so it could not really tell. It could just tell that, yes, Athens is a region, and that's a NUTS2 label, and Mykonos has another one, but it couldn't tell which is the region of employment. In order for it to provide it to us, we should have provided the entire OJA, which was out of question. So at the end, we ended up with 6,500 OJAs, which form essentially our training set. And then we created a manually created test set or validation set, if you want to put it this way, which contains, again, the same information. So we have the OJA description and then the NUTS2 region. And we went back to, okay, it's not exactly traditional AI, it's 5 years old, so it's borderline. We fine-tuned BERT on the 6,500 OJAs and applied on the 528 that were manually labeled. And our goal was to measure the accuracy on those. But you can replace BERT with whatever. We chose BERT because we could run in-house with even on CPU and could do the job. But it could even replace that with logistic regression or something like that. Here I will just provide the accuracy scores of 3 different models. The first is not really a model, it's the majority classifier that predicts the majority label of the tested all the time. The second one is what I call ChatGPT. So the process that was used to create the training set is applied to the test set, and therefore ChatGPT outputs the label of every OJA. And finally, this is ours, which is the BERT-based model that was trained in the 3-step process that I described in the previous slides. And these are the results. There are 2 sets. This is accuracy scores. And I want to emphasize the second, so the very right, as you see it, the very right column, which shows the accuracy of the models whenever we have a NUTS2 region of employment in an OJA. So in some of the OJAs in the test set, there was not mention of the region of employment, and therefore we don't know if it's correct or not. So this 93.3% means that we are in 93.3% of the cases that there was a NUTS2 region of employment mentioned in an OJA, our approach predicted it correctly, which surprisingly does better than ChatGPT, which lacks of context, so our model has more information. And finally, the cost. you can see that our approach costs us about 30 euros, I think. And this includes, we don't care about how many. We have a trained model now. We don't care if we have 1 billion of OJAs to classify. We can just run the model straight away. We did some analysis then with against the official statistics. Here you can see the employment on the x-axis by LFS. This is by region. And on the y-axis, we have the share of OJAs. And we can see that you can fit a line which fits pretty well on this. Very annoyingly, though, you can see this red dot on the top bottom left. This L42 region was troubling us, so we zoomed in a bit to see. And it turned out that this was the region of South Aegean. These are the Greek letters that I promised you. But trust me, what they write, all the things that you can see here are names of the islands in this region. So these are the most characteristic keywords that came out for this region. And that's the reason. So this way was to ensure at the macro level that our model works. Right below this region, right below these keywords, the most characteristic keywords were all of them related to the tourism industry. And that's the reason of its overrepresentation in OJAS compared to LFS, actually. Because people do not live in Mykonos. They just go to Mykonos for 5 months to work there, and they go back to Athens or wherever. So, yeah, to sum up, I think the interesting take was how we can use LLMs as annotators for creating a training set. Another approach is to create an artificially generated, to ask them to generate data, actually. And this approach demands very, very limited manual effort. There are limitations stemming from the fact that we tested a single language and the small set, the test set is quite small, the validation set. And for the future work, we plan to expand this approach across multiple languages and to perform a more robust evaluation. So thank you very much.
Organized, do we have time for questions or should we go for coffee? We have overpassed by 10 minutes now our time.
A couple of questions.
Okay. A couple of questions. Anyone? Marco, a comment?
Or this traditional AI, which you referred that I said before, right? So, for instance, one thing what we use for these kind of things is this what we call Wikifier, right? So you drop in a text in pretty much any language and you get annotated with Wikipedia categories, so or effectively with Wikidata, right? Where you have for each entity also label, is it geographical place, country, organization, person, or anything else. And this is highly scalable, works across all the languages, pretty much covered. So this would be one of the possible approaches as well, which would at least remove the language issue, right? And the scale is free. So this could be one simple comment, right? And maybe just one for loop over the documents, and you would get this very likely quite accurately. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Wikifier.org. Very simple.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Questions? No? Everyone is eager for the coffee. Thank you very much, Adam. If you, just one final word, in case you enjoyed this session, remember 1st of April, there will be one day dedicated to OJAs in the event organized by CEDEFOP with the partnership of Eurostat. Deadline for papers is 10 of February, but negotiable if you know Vlad.